So I call the embassy. I'm about to get deported to Afghanistan. We're two Americans. American passports were impacted. We need help. And she's like, no one's in right now. I don't really have anyone to route you to right now. Is this an emergency? I'm like, it's an emergency. She could took my information, took my number. So I put down the phone and I'm like, the embassy is going to call your manager right now. So we better get this. I'm totally bluffing.
Wow.
And I see Jerome has like a glimmer of hope. And then I come up to him. I'm like, I'm fucking bluffing, man. I'm like, I'm just trying to win us time because I'm
not going back to
I know
Afghanistan.
Kabul's airport closes. So they're going to have to let that flight go. And guess what? They're not letting the flight go. So the two pilots come out. The captain comes out and he's like, you guys have to get on the plane because I can't leave.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Oops, the podcast. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, dude. Here with Ryan Lynch, as always. We have a very special guest today, guys. She is somebody who I met, I think, traveling. Oh, no, I now specifically remember. That's obvious. It should be obvious to me, but I got nervous as I was introducing her for some reason. We were connected by our tour guides in Afghanistan. Mohammed Ajan, who's very famous on this show. You guys probably remember that name. So he connected us with each other. And then we happen to live down the street from each other. We've kind of been chatting. We had coffee, whatever. And now we are kind of like following each other's activities. And it's just fun, especially for me to have a person who understands what I'm talking about when I talk about this shit. So everybody, Elona Karafin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Yeah. So Elona is an incredible traveler, vlogger, travel person. I guess you can kind of like help us specify exactly what
Content creator.
Sure. We'll throw that naughty word out there into the mix. Philanthropist as well. And I've said this on the show before, but she truly puts me to shame when it comes to how substantially her travel kind of like portfolio has been built out.
I aim to inspire you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. She has traveled all over the world and done a bunch of cool shit. And, you know, I hate this measurement tool because it sort of like cheapens the idea of different parts of different places, but it is a good place to start, just saying how many countries one has been to. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes tossing that around is like...
It's so cheap that I don't even know. But I
think
think I'm around 80.
It's around 80.
Give or take. Yeah, the UN countries, probably around 80.
Solid.
Keep going back to the same places now. But before I used to be really into just like new country. Now I keep exploring the same ones.
Yeah, that's like, that's some like next level shit. And before we started recording, Alona mentioned something about the idea of a place sort of like giving the wow factor, giving you that like feeling, that special feeling you feel. And anybody who's listening probably understands that feeling because at first you kind of get that anytime you go anywhere. I'll be honest, I still kind of do get it anytime I go anywhere. But I know what you're talking about. There have been times where I'm like convincing myself that I feel it more than I really do.
Yeah.
Instead of just being honest with myself, as it appears that you have been.
Definitely.
But okay, so in that, and I know this because we were talking about it before, but some of the places that you really love to go back to are places that I have been, and stuff worth talking about for us, I guess, specifically Afghanistan and Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Those are two of your spots.
Yeah. And they were wow factors for sure for me.
Yeah.
I think Iraq still is a wow factor for me because of just how amazing the people are. And every time I come there, I'm like, damn, you guys are so kind. And nobody understands that in the world. Like, it's something that you have to go there to understand because the perspective and the perception rather of Iraqis is just so flawed and misconstrued in Western media that every time I go there, I'm reminded that the things that I see are just false.
Totally.
Or not a full picture. Maybe not false, but not 100%. The perfect picture.
No, for sure. And like, it's very, very true with Iraq. Like, and in a way where it's like, I joke and I say this I do a joke about it, about how like they know sometimes they'll like fuck with you because they like maybe think you're scared if you're like first coming to the country or whatever. Because it's so ridiculous to them because it's like not scary at all for a visitor in any way. And I say to people, I'm like, you could take your girl on vacation. People always laugh. They think I'm kidding. I'm like, I'm not kidding. Like, and I say it to Hill Dog too. I'm like, yo, like we could go. And she's like, I know we could, but I don't want to. I want to go to the beach. I'm like, fine. I understand that. But I remember, I'll never forget this. The first time I went there, I've only been there once, but I arrived and our guides weren't there yet. Like they were running late, which this was by far the most adventurous trip I had taken at the time. So you don't want your guide to be running late.
In Iraq.
Yeah.
All places.
You start to just be suspicious and you're worried about them. They're going to do this or that. Yeah, I don't know. And to them, they're like, think it's crazy. Like, but you know, you're a little scared. I don't want to admit it, but I'm a little scared. And they're not there yet. They're like, he'll be there tomorrow. And we're texting and I'm like, Jesus, dude. And we go out for dinner that night. We take a taxi. And then to go home, we had to like hail a taxi. Dinner was fine. Everything was cool.
You took a taxi by yourself at that point? Okay. So you were, okay.
Took a taxi by ourselves. The hotel kind of arranged it for us and whatever. It was easy. On the way home, we just had to hail a taxi. And we had a number, but maybe we couldn't figure it out, whatever. So we end up just hailing a taxi. A random car just pulls up that didn't look like a taxi.
Right.
Some like scary looking guy driving. And I tried to recreate this moment in my video, but which, you know, maybe you know what I'm talking about if you remember this moment. But like, you know, we weren't filming because we were too scared, whatever. So we're in the car. The guy's not saying anything. We show him where we're going. Like, oh my God. And we're kind of like afraid. He drops us off at the hotel. We try to pay him. He says, won't let us pay. And he's like, welcome. Oh. And I'm like, dude, I felt so guilty. And like, that just sums up visiting there. Right? Would you agree?
I agree. Yeah. We had countless moments of people just not taking our money, looking at us like we're crazy for even offering them money. And the story that I remember the best was when we went to Mosul the first time. We had the best coffee of our entire lives in this like tiny little coffee shop with this guy who looked so angry. He looked like I have this Eastern European RBF and he looked like that. And I was like, Jerome, I promise you he's happy, but he just doesn't look like it. We come up to him, we take the coffee and we're just like, holy shit, this is the best coffee we ever had. He did not take our money. We had like 4 more coffees because we just couldn't get enough of it. Did not take a dime from us. And I was like, when we have our group trip here, I'm bringing everyone here. I brought the whole group trip there this time. Like we just came back and everyone even ended up buying coffee from him, like kilograms and kilograms of coffee to take home. Nice. So I was like, you know what? I'm happy.
If everybody was just like that, it would be a nicer world to live in, right?
Seriously.
Just everybody being nice. So for anybody who's like that didn't ring a bell initially, like Mosul was like basically the height of like the Islamic State. Yeah. But it was like, was it the capital of
it was like the economic capital because there was Aleppo and then there's Mosul and it's battered and bruised and you could kind of see like the juxtaposition of all like a lot of the buildings are still ruined. There's mines inside of them. They still have bomb squads that have to check the different areas. That's why they can't rebuild as quickly as they would want to. And then you have so much life there and so many people that are just smiling and they came back home and they reopened their businesses and they're not taking money for the coffee that we take from them, even though we're clearly tourists. And for us, that 50 cents is like nothing and they still won't take it. And that's incredible. And that really shows you how resilient people can be. Amazing. And makes you wonder why it's not like that in other places. You know, why in certain places that go through hardship, people are not always as kind and receptive, but in Iraq,
and it's understandable. Yeah.
And it's understandable. Absolutely. But then like, what creates that difference between these places? Right.
And this is the second biggest the second biggest city in Iraq, if I'm not mistaken. Northern Iraq, literally like the Islamic State. I don't know if everybody realizes this, but like they formed an Islamic State according to, you know, most people argue that it's not based on any sort of Islamic anything. They sort of decided to kind of take liberties with all of these things. Had a literal flag. They had their own currency. Like they made their own country based on all of this wacky stuff. And, you know, the people of Mosul unfortunately went through it. So, you know, Alona is just going to all of these kind of places.
Well, they're not there anymore, but yeah.
And that's an important thing to mention too.
But many people would still think that they are, and that you know, you might come there and then something's just gonna blow up or something's just going to happen and you might be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Mosul, I think, is the safest part of Iraq now just because of everything that happened there and all of the security that they have, and they're cleaning everything out and rebuilding. And
so to be clear, because since we just did talk about active mines being around, like there are areas that have not yet been scanned which they don't let you go.
Right. Okay. But like ISIS is not there.
Right. Yeah. ISIS is no longer
not there.
in active in any capacity, at least around there. And if they are active, I don't think that they are, as organized or as ready to go.
To put in perspective, like they were so bad and so extreme that the country, like Iraq, between the Shia and the Sunnis, like there's a lot of hatred in those groups, and then there's also Kurdistan. Everyone that hated each other had to come together to fight ISIS. That's how bad and extreme ISIS was. That all the people that were divided were like, no, this is cannot terrible. Be happening here. This is terrible, and we do not stand for this, and this is not what Islam is, and we have to fight them.
Yes. So anyway, Alona is the sort of personification of things that I talk about, but like really about that life more so, even like much more than me. Now, I would like to be more, doing it more, but I haven't quite gotten there and haven't figured it out. But she is my spirit animal for sure. They have been to Afghanistan. They're going back soon. And the fact that you guys are going back to me is fascinating because of how crazy your first trip ended up being in a certain capacity. Now, the trip was fine, right? Overall?
Yeah, the trip was amazing. And we went there with a very clear intention to have the best and most immersive cultural experience that we can. And I think that intention, like, it was very important. Like, if you're coming into a trip saying, I want to be culturally immersed, I want to be open-minded, I want to experience and say yes to everything. And that was just, that was like our motto every single day. And that's exactly what we got.
Okay. So before we get into the story that I want to talk about, which you've told me that's interesting, I want to know a little bit more about your trip, first of all. So a little backstory also. So I think you went
right after you.
Right after me.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
like 10 days after you, I think.
So yeah, I sort of like organized the whole school thing. Alona showed up like kind of right on the heels of that and has not only continued to support the school, but like we are having the same conversations with those people over there. And she's going to go back soon, and she's going to be able to kind of see firsthand the progress, which I'm very excited about, and I'm sure you are as well. So Thank you for being involved.
Thank you for starting it.
Yeah, no, it's been a really fun thing, and it's special that we've gotten to do it together, which is cool. So you went there. What was your itinerary? Just quickly, like where did you guys go?
We went to Kabul, Bamyan, Bandamir, Mazar Sharif, Herat. We were mostly flying. I think our original itinerary involved a lot of driving, and I was just not mentally prepared. I get car sick, and I know the unpaved roads. I was like, I don't want to drive for 14 hours to the minaret this time. I will do it, but I was just like not prepared.
So you guys flew and you went to it?
We didn't go to the minaret at all the first time, which is, just for anyone that doesn't know, it's very like a very important part of Afghanistan that kind of you have to see when you're a tourist.
The Minaret of Jam.
The Minaret of Jam. Yeah. So we flew to most of the cities except for Bamyan. We drove there.
Cool.
So everywhere else we flew.
I support that choice. The drives were terrible.
Yeah.
Like they were fun in some ways, but like they were also terrible. Everybody knows my sort of evening with the Taliban story, which was not fun. Okay, but I have a question for you. The people had said this, and I thought it was an interesting point, and I'm curious about your experience. But people are always like, what's it like being a woman visiting? What's it like being a woman visiting? But you theoretically get to like cover up, and the Taliban guys won't even look you in the eye, right?
So it's a gray area for tourists. I can't say, like, when I speak as my experience as a woman is not like any other woman in Afghanistan and what she experiences
100%.
As a local. So
Totally.
I always make that clarification. But of course, I still had to cover up everywhere. Just a hijab, another misconception. People think that women come there and they have to wear burqas. That's not true. You just have to wear a hijab. And honestly, mine was like usually half mast. Like,
oh, so you didn't cover your face?
No. I did not cover my face. So actually, if you wear a burqa, most women that wear burqas there are from very traditional and usually like the village families or the cities that are very religious. So not Kabul. And if I were to wear a burqa with 2 men, Jerome and I are not married. So, and then our guide and I, we have no connection. We're not family. I'm a stranger to him in the eyes of the religious rulers. They could actually get in trouble. So I would not wear a burqa anyway, but being with them, it would be a tricky situation if we got caught and they'd be like, who's this woman? You're not married to her. You're not her cousin.
Interesting.
What's going on? Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't really know any women that just like tourists that come and wear burqas for the hell of it.
Okay. So the fact so you don't have the face covered, and then the fact that you're a woman though, did that make them more or less likely to be like, who is this person?
I definitely stick out like a sore thumb for sure. So I was getting many looks, and the looks were fascination. You know, it wasn't like a hungry men kind of eyeing me down. Right. Many men were not making eye contact with me because they can't. I could see why women, especially if you're not well traveled or if you're a solo traveler, when you just have a bunch of men staring at you all the time, that could totally be uncomfortable. I don't feel that discomfort. I recognize it. I keep moving. Like I talk to Jerome, I talk to Mohammed John. I just don't pay attention. I have tunnel vision. So the looks were fascination. Taliban came up to us often just to like, hello, where are you from? Welcome to Afghanistan. Like that's literally those are the things that we were hearing. So I didn't feel unsafe, but again, it's a great area. We went to that. Did you go to the Taliban, the hill with the flags?
Where was it?
This big in Kabul. There's like this big hill, and they have a huge Taliban flag now, where it used to be an Afghan flag. And that area is just like where they go, just men. So there's never any woman there. And
I think I did. It like overlooks that mosque.
It overlooks like the whole city pretty much. Yeah. And we went there, and that was probably the weirdest time for me because no women could ever go there. So I'm already like, that was just my privilege, and I'm not comfortable with my privilege, you know, like I'm happy that I have it, but in the moment I'm just like, I shouldn't be here. And then they're just like holding hands. There's photographers there taking photos of just like these freaking Taliban dudes with their AKs, and they're just like standing like this at the camera, and I'm like, what the fuck? They're
like 17. Happening? They're like,
and I'm like, holy shit. And like I felt so uncomfortable, and they're all looking at me because now it's like, what is happening? But other than that, it was okay.
Yeah.
Everyone was very nice.
New year, new me, yada, yada, yada. But I'll tell you this, same undies.
Me undies.
There you
go. You
go.
undies, we undies.
Me undies.
Me undies.
Me undies, guys.
Wearing them right now.
As am I. If you want to feel comfortable, and if you want to be able to go about your day flexibly, coolly, and I don't just mean cool as in yo, I'm cool. I mean cool physically. You are physically cool because your underwear are keeping you as such. MeUndies got you covered. All styles and types. They have some fun novelty ones that are always a nice little surprise. And I'm in the bedroom with the missus. Pull out those dino boxers. She has a good laugh. We have a good laugh. Roar. Haha. Yeah. It's very good.
It's all fun and games, but they seriously care about the comfort. Like I can do so much with my legs when I'm wearing my MeUndies. The fabric is buttery soft. And they also have other things too. They have hoodies, they have t-shirts, they have the amazing underwear, and so much more. You got to check it out. If you haven't had it yet, there is not anything else on the market.
Dude, I like that leg movement that you were just able to do. We signed this man up for the Rockettes, people.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Or MeUndies demonstrations.
Well, dude, MeUndies too, like as far as basics go, every once in a while when I need new underwear, I'll go and make a bulk order, then you'll just be all set. You know, I personally like a nice black boxer brief. There's a couple different styles on the MeUndies site. You can kind of pick whatever works for you. They also have a regular boxer brief, a couple different styles of boxer briefs, etc. All great, all flexible, all ready to rip. But like I said before, I like to sprinkle in a little novelty pair sometimes. Give a little surprise for the missus.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and MeUndies has been around for a minute. They know what they're doing. There's a reason why they stuck around, and they're always staying at the top. I got my first pair back in 2017, ordered the polka dot matching set for me and my girlfriend. Wow. So much fun, dude.
That is a lot of fun.
And most of all, very comfortable.
That couldn't be more fun, Ryan.
No, polka dots.
That's the
There's
most
nothing
fun I've
not
ever
fun
heard
about
of.
polka dots.
There's nothing unfun about polka dots. And right now, kick off the new year comfier than ever and get 20% off of your first order plus free shipping at meundies.com/oops. That's meundies.com/oops for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Supposedly, Muhammad John was saying that women are allowed to go places by themselves, but they can't like cross the lines of the different like, what are they called? Not states, but you know what I mean? Like the different regions of the country. But like a lot of women just might not because they're not used to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So that's another thing. Well, I think many things have changed since the last time that we were there. I know the like parks and amusement parks, women can't go to. Basically, like anything that's fun, women can't participate in that.
Could they when we were there? I don't think they could.
I believe they
Really?
could with their, if you're having like a family day and you're with your
interesting.
kids or your husband at the park, I think
No, you
you
can't.
were allowed to. But yeah, that's another thing that yes, things are allowed, but culturally they're already not used to doing that, so they're just not going to do it because it's it's just not a cultural norm, or it could be unsafe in general because the Taliban do treat local women differently than
Right. And it's a bummer because, you know, it seems as if over the last 20 years, there was a sort of like class of sophisticated urban woman developing. There was like that identity existed. And like we hear from a lot of those people in the media and stuff, but in no way is that like the normal way that the people are there.
No.
But maybe that would have been nice if everyone could have progressed to having the option
there
to be
was a
like
whole
that,
generation. I mean, there was a whole generation that was able to go to school and that was able to do different things that they just can't do now. Literally, like to do shit. That's exactly what it is. Like the smallest things that you just can't do. So it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. I don't want you to go too far into this so that it fucks up your next trip.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm pragmatic enough to know that certain things like just emotionally can't affect me, but I recognize them, and I think that's also very important.
Totally. So when we had coffee last time, you told me a great story where I was like, fuck, like that is a stressful story. Because for me, I don't know about you, and I actually intend to ask you about this and lead up to talking about this story. My biggest fear as a traveler is the idea of just being held for a really long time, where my life is now on pause, but then it goes on for so long that everyone's life that I'm close to, they all move on with their life.
Okay,
and
that's a long time. We're talking like jail time type of.
Yeah, say I'm there for a year.
Okay.
And I'm just there. My life is now just I live here, and maybe they're treating me okay, but like I'm there for a year. I don't know my fate. Like I'm very scared of that scenario.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
It sucks. I mean, I know it would never prevent me from traveling because I know how unlikely that scenario is.
Right.
I'm just as likely to get hit by a car walking across the street as I am of that happening. You know what I mean? So I know that, but still, I'm afraid of that. So when you told me this story, it like sounded like I don't like situations where I'm even can smell that scenario. Mm-hmm. And to me, this sort of did start to feel like that a little bit. Before you tell me, do you have a thing that is your biggest fear as a traveler that you think about or that scares you?
Well, now that you bring that up, that's not like a conscious fear. I don't have any conscious fears when I travel, but I could definitely see myself potentially being in a scenario like that in certain countries, and also just like with the type of attitude that I have, maybe. But nothing, no conscious fears. Like my stomach is good, so I know that's not really something I'm.
I always ask her how her stomach is, and she's like, "That's a weird question."
No, that's a very valid question. Everyone asks me that. Really, my biggest fear is like not being able to travel. To be honest, like something happening. I read an article. I believe she was like a New York Times journalist, and she was traveling almost full time, and then she was paralyzed. And she couldn't travel anymore, and that article really just stuck with me, and I think about that a lot because I've been through situations in my life where I was like given a second chance, and I've been through many health scares and cancer and all of that. So the value of your health is very important, and that's why people that wait to retire and travel, that scares me because I just like, you never know what's going to happen by that time.
Totally.
You're not going to be the same traveler as you are when you're in your 20s and 30s.
Not going to be durable.
Not as durable, But
Right.
yeah, so that's like a fear, I would say.
I love it. That's wild, dude. Like, I'm like, what's the fear? And she's like, I'm just afraid that I won't be able to travel.
Yeah.
Fucking cowboy shit. I love it. Okay, so Alona is leaving Afghanistan, lands in Pakistan, middle of the night.
No, it was early. It was like 4 p.m.
Oh, really?
It lasted into the night.
Oh, yeah.
We landed around 4.
So tell us this story. This is a gnarly story, in my opinion.
So we were traveling back to New York. We had to fly back to Pakistan, from Pakistan to Doha JFK. Jerome was flying to Turkey. We had different tickets.
What airline to Pakistan?
To Pakistan, Comair.
That was the only thing operating at the time?
Yeah, we had like round trip Comair tickets. So I think we were coming to Kabul on Comair. So that's how we ended up just getting a return ticket with the same airline.
I heard Fly Dubai now is flying to Afghanistan.
Fly Dubai flies, yeah. Comair, Fly Dubai, Ariana flies there.
Oh, yeah. We got good options now.
Yeah.
I would love hitting that Fly Dubai
I think we're probably going to take Fly Dubai next
you should probably take Fly
Even
Dubai.
though Comair was great.
Comair
like the
solid.
food and the snacks and
Agreed.
everything. Yeah.
Overall solid.
It wasn't bad.
Okay, continue.
So we land in Pakistan at like 4, and our next flight was the following morning, which we knew. We planned it that way. We just like really wanted to rest, get some work done, just be in the lounge, sleep for the night, and then hop on the plane the next
Islamabad?
morning. This is Islamabad.
And so there's like good lounges and stuff in Islamabad.
There's a lounge.
Which one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a local lounge. Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't classify it as, it wasn't bad actually.
Gotta hit the lounge, guys.
It wasn't bad.
Gotta hit the lounge.
Well, so we were going to pay for that lounge, actually. We didn't even like have lounge access. So we land in Islamabad. We have this crazy long layover. And I'm like, okay, we have to recheck our luggage. Actually, I think they even told us that we have to recheck our luggage because Comair and like Qatar Airways were not affiliated in any way. So we had to get our bags. So we get out of the flight and I'm looking for the transit desk. There's no transit desk. I'm like, we don't have a visa to Pakistan at this point. We had a one single entry visa. We would have needed a multi-entry visa to basically like get out of the airport again. And we didn't need that because we weren't planning on it. So we go to the immigration counter. Nobody speaks a knack of English, which typically like it's not an issue. I'm in your country, but we're at an airport. So you kind of have to speak English.
Is it the biggest airport in the country? Airport.
I come up to the guy and before even handing him my passport, I was like, hi, we just need to get our luggage to recheck it. He's just like staring at me, blank face, passport. I was like, okay. I give him my passport. My old visa to Pakistan is in my passport. He's like looking through pages and I'm like, is there a transit desk or information? Cause I'm already like sensing that we're not in the like right place. Cause that was the area you had to pass to leave. He goes, 1 second. All of a sudden, 3 security guards walking our way. I still don't understand what's happening. The security guard comes up to me. He's like, can I see your passport? I'm like, sure. Takes our passports. He has a boarding pass in his hand. He's like, you have to fly back to Kabul. You're trying to enter the country illegally. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I was like, I have a flight. Like, I literally have the ticket for my next flight, which was the next morning.
Did this person speak English?
No, like broken. He's like, back to Kabul. Like, back to Kabul.
Jesus, dude.
And I'm like, what's happening? He has, and he's holding my passport at this point, and he takes my luggage, and then the other guy takes Jerome's luggage, and Jerome is definitely more calm than I am, and I had to be calm at that moment. So I'm already like, all right, Alona, it's your time to shine. I have to be street smart. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, we have onward tickets. We just need to recheck our luggage. He's like, you back to Kabul, back to Afghanistan. Let's go, follow me. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Oh, no. So I turn to Jerome and I'm already like thinking 10 steps ahead. I'm like, if we go back to Kabul, first of all, the airport in Kabul closes at like 7 p.m. Second of all, we don't have visas for Afghanistan. They're gonna take us apart because men and women can't be anywhere together anyway. I'm not trying to spend time in like a Taliban jail. There's no U.S. presence there, so no one's going to help us.
And you would go to jail because you're back in the country with no visa.
We would go to jail or we would be held somewhere until they figured out what to do with us. Yeah. It would have been jail. Absolutely like terrible.
And it would have taken a long time to figure it out.
Oh, for sure.
And there's no embassy in
There's
Afghanistan.
no embassy. There's no U.S. presence. So I look at Jerome and the first thing I say, I'm like, if they arrest us, I was like, we have to let them arrest us and it has to happen here because at least there's an embassy here and we could call and like try to figure it out. So I basically said, if they take us apart right now, I was like, you hold your ground because Jerome, he's good, like he does hold his ground. But I feel like once it reaches a point of, like shit, the police are getting involved or something, like, jail time is getting into the picture, he might just be like, okay, I'll fly back to Kabul. I'm like, Jerome, we're not no matter what happens, we're not going back to Kabul. So they like take us away. They didn't separate us, and this lasted for like 3 or 4 hours. We were just getting interrogated. They took our passports, and I'm like telling the security guard, I'm like, give me my passport back, I'm gonna call the police. And they're like, we're gonna cuff you. I'm like, okay, cuff me. I'm like, take me to jail, go ahead, like literally. And I hate to say this, but the American privilege that day helped me more than anything.
You pulled the Karen out of your back pocket.
Because if I did not have an American passport, like any other not any other passport, but many other passports in the world, they would have just looked at me like a second-class citizen and be like, I don't care. But because I was American, the women are looking at me because I'm like raising my voice at these dudes that probably like the woman never, except for their mom,
they
probably
backhand them in the face if they said something to them. So do you think like a Western European passport would have had the same gusto, or this is like the American passport was like
I think American was I don't know, maybe. I mean, there are many strong passports, but I feel like American is just like scary. And anyways, I was like raising my voice at them, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna pull the best card. I'm calling the embassy. Nice.
How long did it take for you to think of that?
I already thought about it, but I was still trying to talk my way out of this whole situation, and I was like, there's no fucking way they're gonna send us back to Kabul.
Guys, can we pause for 1 second? This is insane. Okay, like all of this, like this is a situation where it's like you need to have some chops as a traveler to be able to handle this.
I have balls, honestly. What's up. I know that I have an attitude
and
when
experience.
I need it. Not an experience like this, but
experience.
I was preparing
enough.
my whole life for a moment like this.
Right.
I was like, this is my time to shine.
But you were very well traveled at this point, and like you understand visas and transit and all this shit, and like that you're right.
I was hoping I was right, because at that point I was second guessing, like, did I need a multi-entry visa?
Right. Was the layover too long?
Airport was
I
did think about those things, and then basically I was still trying to like work my way into this whole conversation. And I'm texting my friend who's a pilot, and I'm like, dude, I need to know, like, what's my leverage here? What could they do? He's like, basically, you're an INAD, you're an inadmissible passenger, which means they have to deport you back to the country that you came from, because you can't enter Pakistan. So you just can't be in Pakistan at all. He's like, if they want to, they could cuff you and put you on the flight in cuffs. So I'm like, fuck.
But
I
how?
don't have... That's legally, he was a pilot for Emirates before, so he's like, legally they could do that.
And this is specific to Pakistan?
No, anywhere in the world, I guess. Yeah.
So now do you just get visas anytime you have a layover? Like, I don't get it.
See, I still don't know. There should have been a transit desk. I don't have an answer to this. So
well,
at that point,
happy travels, everybody.
That was the point where I'm like, I have to call the embassy, because if they could legally cuff us and put us on the plane, that's a big issue. I have no leverage. Like, I'm arguing here, but if they know that they could do those things, then there's nothing to argue about. So I call the embassy, and I'm like, guys, we're 2 Americans. We're in trouble. Like, they're trying to send us back to Kabul. She goes, honey, I'm sorry. I'm just a call center. You could call back in the morning. And I'm like, I'm about to get deported to Afghanistan. We're 2 Americans. American passports were in Pakistan. We need help. And she's like, no one's in right now. And I'm just like,
is she she's not at the embassy in Islamabad?
I don't know if she's at the embassy. She's just like the person that picked up the phone and she routes the call. And she's like, I don't really have anyone to route you to right now. Is this an emergency? I'm like, it's an emergency. She took my information, took my number. So I put down the phone and I'm like, the embassy is going to call your manager right now. So we better get this. Totally bluffing. And I see Jerome has like a glimmer of hope. And then I come up to him. I'm like, I'm fucking bluffing, man. I'm like, I'm just trying to win us time, because I'm
not going back to
I know Kabul's airport closes. So they're going to have to let that flight go. And guess what? They're not letting the flight go. So the 2 pilots come out. The captain comes out and he's like, you guys have to get on the plane, because I can't leave.
This is Cam Air.
This is Cam Air. And he's like, and the airport's closing. And I have a sick passenger on board. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I have an onward ticket. I was like, we've had an onward ticket. We're not getting on this flight. This is crazy. The pilots are confused. They're like, what the fuck?
So nobody speaks English, though?
The pilots did.
Okay.
But the pilots didn't give a shit. They have to go back to Kabul, and they're looking at us like we're literally criminals. They were so angry. They're like, we have a sick passenger. This passenger's
You're
like,
like,
gonna
well, you know what?
die
Fuck that
because of you.
bitch.
I was like, he's like, there's a Qatar flight the next morning. I'm like, do you understand that we're not going to make it to the next morning because the airport closes? And if we go back to Kabul, which we're not, but if we do, we're not making it to the next flight the next morning. And why would I pay for another flight when I have a flight? So yeah. So 3-4 hours later.
So so you landed at 4 p.m. What time is it now?
This is like 7.
Just now it's 7.
Kabul gave them like an extra hour. So that's why they came out and they were like, you have to get on
the airport.
The airport.
And when did the check-in bag thing, like how long has this dispute been going? Like at what time did you try to get your bags?
We like landed, I think, at 4, and basically we were at the immigration counter by
right
like
away.
4:15.
Okay,
yeah,
so
it was right away. So it was like 3-4 hours of them threatening us, and then when I actually said that I'm going to call the local police, they handed me my passport back. So I realized that must be like the guys at the airport were like, we're going to get fired. Please just get on the flight. Like, we're just doing our job. I was like, I'm really sorry, but like this guilt trip shit is not going to work. I have a flight out of Islamabad. I'm taking that flight. They had to call head of immigration, who I think was home, because if he was at the airport, he would have came out way earlier.
So why didn't that happen earlier?
I was asking for it. I was like, call your boss. He's like, yeah, I called my boss. I was like, well, my embassy's going to call your boss. They didn't call.
Nobody called.
But the embassy's not calling either. So I know that. So we're both bluffing.
It's wild to be in places where like that you just be okay with that. Bro, fuck that shit.
They could have been looking for a bribe, and I wasn't even thinking about that in the moment because I'm not about to bribe.
I've heard that's a bad airport for that.
I'm not bribing a government official because then I have zero leverage. I'm just not going to do that. If we were on some border patrol in a car, maybe not at an airport. Yeah, not at the airport. So then the head of immigration came, spoke fluent English.
Sorry, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
I'm still curious about how we got here because I've been in a situation like this before in Russia with I had a fucked up visa. I've told the story before. I don't need to tell it, but I remember the nature of the problem moving pretty slowly. So it makes sense to me why this took 4 hours, because it's like, you need to do this, and I'm like, no.
Well, that was
like,
quick.
okay, let's go talk to our boss.
Is quick because that flight had to leave. I think if it wasn't for that flight, because that flight was on the tarmac, but had that flight left, for example, and we were at the immigration counter, they would have had to keep us at the airport until the next Air flight, which was the following morning. And that would have been a long process.
Right. Which would have been actually better for you theoretically, because
there was
have more time to work it out, because you can work this out, but it's just about talking to the right people, which is a sad and stressful thing to know. You're like, I know this will be fine, but I need to like fight for it, because there is a world where they physically forced me to get on this flight, and I'm not doing that.
Right. And they had the legal, apparently, like they could have legally put us back on that flight. So
I don't get that. So you have this transit. So we still don't know the rules specifically about the transit situation and not having a visa to be back in Pakistan. We don't know.
From what I think logically, that there has to be a transit desk, or there needs to be some sort of porter service that transfers the luggage to the other flight, because otherwise I would have had to pay double for a multi-entry visa to Pakistan just to recheck my luggage. That doesn't make sense.
So was that an option in the moment?
In the moment, no, because you don't get a visa that quickly. It was too late.
Too late. Yeah. And that was my problem with the Russia thing. But I remember like my Russia story sounded bad, and it was, but I'm just sitting in a normal area. I'm like sitting next to one of the kind of security check-ins.
Yeah, no, we have 20. At that point, it was like 20 security guards surrounding. I'm surprised they let us have like our phones and everything. Yeah, that saved our, like I was, calling the embassy, and I was speaking to Jerome. We were close to each other. So in that way, we felt a lot more secure, because at least we were together and we had access to Google and my friend that's a pilot and the embassy and our parents,
Saved my ass too, because they were trying to do the same thing with me. They were trying to put me on a flight and send me home, and I was like, I'm not going home, dude. So after hours and hours and hours of them not being able to get me on flights, I'm like, can I just buy my own flight? And they were like, yeah. I'm like, why wouldn't you just say that, dude?
Well, that's what I told them. I'm like, how about you just deport me to the country of my origin, which is the US? I was like, I have an American passport. Deport me. Oh, and I have the ticket already. But they were like, no, you're like an INAD. You have to go back to the country you came from ASAP.
What is INAD again?
inadmissible passenger, which is, by the way, like very rare in the AV because you go through so much security. Like it's unlikely for you to go somewhere where you don't have a valid visa.
Right. And that you get into that trouble, you get into that problem when you have like separate tickets and shit. You're more likely to, at least.
You're
right?
Yeah,
because otherwise they'll bring your stuff
likely,
for you.
but so many checks now that it's almost like unlikely.
You shouldn't run into that problem. Okay, so at this point, it's been a few hours back and forth. The security guards are there. The guy's standing with his walkie-talkie. There's moments where nothing's happening, and they're looking at you. You're looking at them. Nothing.
Many
then
moments,
an update.
yeah.
There's just a lot of that. So it's like slow moving, but like faster than it could have been given the nature of this flight needed to go back to Kabul. So 8 p.m. now they've extended the takeoff, the airport being open for Kabul.
Yeah.
They have a little more time. And at this point, you now contact the head of the airport?
It wasn't me. It was
Immigration?
them.
Okay.
It was them that ended up, I'm not sure if he was home and he had to come back from like home to deal with this, but they let the flight go. So I was like, okay, this is good.
This is good.
Because if whatever happens now, it's going to happen in this country. And the head of immigration speaks fluent English, and he's just like, what happened? So of course I explained the story to him, and he's like, you have a confirmed ticket? I was like, I've had a confirmed ticket. Like, I didn't even just buy it now to try and like, play something off. It's like, I had a confirmed ticket. Our flight is at, I don't know, it's like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 4 a.m. even. And he like looks at his staff like he wanted to kill them. He was just like, he was so like confused and angry because the situation was just clear as day. And then he escorted us to the lounge and said, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
That was it. And I had guys, actually, like this one guy who I guess found me on Instagram, and he was like, yeah, Islamabad airport's gonna like remember you forever. He's like, you're in our book.
You're a legend.
You're in our book. Like, you and Churro. I was like, oh shit.
The White Knight. So now they're gonna treat you like royalty every time.
Or the flip side, or maybe he was just like, yeah, you're blacklisted. Please never come back here, because I usually don't raise my voice, and I was trying to be very calm and kind to get out of the situation. But at some point, like, you have my passport in your hand. Give me my passport. You know what I mean? Like,
and you never talk to the embassy.
That's what made me so angry, that I'm like, give me my passport, because you're like threatening me. And then they threatened to put our luggage on the flight, and then the threats started coming, and I'm like, all right, if we're gonna play this game now, I'm gonna call the embassy, I'm gonna call the police. Let's threat each other and see how far this goes. You can't put my luggage on the flight. That's like number one security risk.
Yeah.
You can't do that, So yeah.
Bullshit. Are you using Google Translate at any point?
No, they did not understand us, and we honestly did not understand them, but I was talking a lot.
And you're just able to be like, they're like,
I was like,
bag.
passport. No, they spoke enough broken, but it wasn't enough for us to like figure out why there's this disconnect, because in their eyes, we were trying to enter the country illegally without a visa. And I'm just like, do I look like a person that would do that? I was like, we don't want to go to Pakistan right now. Like, we just came back from a long trip. I have a ticket. Why would I go?
And you had decent service?
Weird. Yeah, we had service. We had full service.
Yeah, what a wild ride. And that is pretty gnarly. I mean, is that like up there with one of your more gnarly like travel situations at this point?
Yeah. I love this story.
Yeah.
I mean, in the moment, it wasn't great, but I learned a lot from it. And I think I learned what I'm capable of doing and what's possible, and that like you have to hold your ground sometimes. And again, like, we were at the airport at the end of the day, so it's not like we were some militia group somewhere on the border where I think I would have been a little more careful and maybe more calm and taking different measures. But at the airport, I just felt secure. There were cameras everywhere. I'm like, all right, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, like the land border crossing seems to be slightly more of a like problematic situation.
Yeah, I've never been in a situation like that. So.
I try to avoid them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I like, and this is maybe not good, because there was something nice about not knowing, being naive and being like, oh, I can just go and like it'll be fine everywhere. And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
But then it's not good to learn a lesson. I don't want to learn lessons. So at this point, I'm like, I'm going to try to avoid any of these problems. So like, I'm going to download the map before, because some of these countries have shitty connection or like whatever. Like in Afghanistan, my phone just didn't work for some reason. Did yours work fine?
Yeah, Google Fi worked like everywhere. I think we spoke about
We talked about this. I had a Verizon thing and it just didn't work the whole time. And I was like, oh, I guess it just doesn't work here. And when I got back, I asked, they're like, oh no, it fully works. You were supposed to call the Verizon Afghanistan line to figure it out. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? So anyway, but yeah, there was like 4G in Afghanistan.
We had it was better service than we probably expected to have there. Yeah.
And even I remember for the podcast, like that's the thing that always blows my mind too. There's pretty good service most places. I know some places sort of don't have it and you need to get a SIM card. I think Iran is one of them.
Maybe.
I don't know specifically.
Look, like on this topic, we're very respectful. We're very careful. We don't break the rules. We don't break the laws. We don't do things we're not supposed to do. Right. And we're fully aware of where we're going and what we have to like adhere to, what kind of rules. And that's how I felt in Pakistan, where I was very confident that I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But then again, you never know. You could be in a situation where someone, put something in your bag, right? And then you can't get out of it because no matter how innocent you are, like now you just look like a guilty piece of shit, and then you get in trouble, and then you have to bribe them. So we've thankfully never been in a situation like that, but we're always conscious of it. That would be one of my fears, probably.
Someone putting shit in your bag?
Someone like putting something in my bag or accusing me of something that I didn't do, but not
planting
having
it on you.
Yeah.
Damn, that's scary. Well, the guy showed up and it was clear as day to him that you didn't do anything wrong. So you weren't a INAP or whatever.
Yeah.
INAD.
No.
Because you had.
Well, INAD I think is just like a term. Nothing. They didn't even do it. They just gave us a boarding pass to go back to Kabul, but they didn't stamp our passport or do it. Well, actually, no, they didn't stamp our passport. So I think it's just a term. You're an inadmissible passenger.
Right, got it. So it's just crazy to me that like these guys that were working there were that dumb. Like how, like you're just going to be dumb and because of that potentially put you in a perilous situation.
When there were like 20 people too.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'll tell you, you're going to hear from my manager about this. That's crazy.
I pulled a Karen there.
Yeah. Gotta do it. Sometimes you got to do it. Ryan, I don't know about you, but I'm sitting down at the computer for a prolonged period of time. Sometimes like a little nicotine in my life.
Sometimes you need it.
I got to be honest. Sometimes you need it. And I will say this, Lucy offers some of the finest tobacco-free nicotine products that exists, and just, in my opinion, the highest quality nicotine products that I have encountered. They are stepping their game up yet again. They have a new product called Breakers. And look, if you know your pouches, you know that the nicotine doesn't hit you immediately, and neither does the flavor. But of course, the geniuses at Lucy have come up with a brilliant way to fix both of those problems. They put a mini liquid capsule inside each Breakers pouch. You pop it with your teeth, which is very satisfying. Tuck it in there, and you will be feeling phenomenal very quickly.
As somebody that's orally fixated on things, needing to chew gum all day, this sounds like a great thing to slide in when I'm sitting for a long turn.
Yeah, dude, agreed. And look, nobody is doing anything like this except for Lucy. Yep. The new kind of pouch technology, and it's only available from Lucy. They come in different strengths. That's another great thing that Lucy offers for these in particular, the Breakers. 4 or 8 milligram tobacco free, 100% pure nicotine, 6 delicious flavors, unique ones like apple ice or espresso, and classics like mint or mango. The espresso is nice with a little coffee.
Yeah.
If you're a morning person when it comes to nicotine. I personally enjoy the espresso. I think it's very, very nice.
I'm on the mint right now.
You're on the mint game?
It's giving gum.
Yeah, but dude, it is true. There's something about the liquid thing that just makes everything into a more straightforward experience, in my opinion.
It's kind of like a reward.
Yeah,
too. It's like a Tootsie Pop getting to the center.
That's very nice.
Suck, bite, then you got that nice little liquid.
And you're the little owl. Hoo, hoo, hoo. You're doing it. You're doing it. So be an owl yourself, right, Ryan?
Yeah, and I will be having some Lucy Breakers.
Yes, you will, my friend. Break up with your dusty gas station pouches and go to lucy.co/oops and use promo code oops to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use code OOPS to get 20% off and always free shipping.
And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
So, okay, what's like next on your list as far as travel that you want to do? And we know Afghanistan and Iraq. You're going back to
We're
both
going
of
to
those.
Iraq. We're going to Afghanistan. We really want to go to Syria this year.
Visa on arrival, right?
Visa on arrival.
For everybody?
Hopefully
Well,
it stays
for certain
that way
passports?
because, you know, that region is in a little bit of a trickier situation, I would say, than Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's a little less stable.
Yes.
But hopefully it stays that way. Papua New Guinea has been higher on our list, and maybe like Amazon, going to some indigenous tribes in Brazil.
Cool.
I think my next like wow factor would be like that indigenous living and tribal living, like people that are just living a completely different reality than ours. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, so you are at this point now, so we're talking about that wow factor. It's like you're chasing the dragon a little bit.
A little bit.
So it's like drugs. It's like you want to feel like that time you took your first hit every time. You know what I mean? Like, this is good shit, dude, whatever. But like it is in a way. Like I understand it. I'm addicted to it too.
Yeah. But we're not chasing the feeling, but we are chasing the like cultural immersion kind of. Like the feeling, it's the immersion part. It's really because we've learned that we're so comfortable in so many different cultures that it's almost like a skill that we have. I don't know too many people that can go to different parts of the world and just be like, it's weird, but it's cool. I'm okay with it. And that's how we are. We go anywhere and we see weird shit and we're like, well, this is how they live. I mean, like, well, that's just what it is. And look, they're functioning. So who are we to say anything? So that's why I think like getting out of our comfort zone and seeing like some really weird shit might put us in a position where we're like, wow. But that
before you were saying something about raves somewhere. Oh, in Iraq there was like raves in Kurdistan or something.
Oh yeah, there were raves in Kurdistan in the mountains. There were like a lot of a lot of the troops that were helping in Mosul. They started. A lot of them stayed. A lot of them fell in love with Iraq and
like
Kurdistan.
From where? Like American troops?
American troops mostly, yeah. And they have like these raves, and their YouTube videos are just like all cinematic drone shots of these places, and it's like epic.
Do you guys bring a drone with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the drone shot really is.
Yeah, our
really
Iraq,
the
last time our drone situation was messed up.
They don't let you bring them, right? Technically?
Yeah, you can't bring them. We bring them anyway. And then
Cowboys,
when we were there last time, there was like a local news station and they interviewed us, and then the head of the actual news station called us and he's like, can you please come back to Baghdad and go on like Good Morning Baghdad and be on like the live show? And we had to change all our plans, came back to Baghdad, and they told us, we did it, of course. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, by the way, if you want a drone in Baghdad, like we could set that up for you. So Jerome was like, what? Fuck, of course. Yeah. So we droned, but this time we came in with our drone and we had like two luggages. Jerome has his drone in like the drone bag, and the remote control, it looks like a PlayStation with the screen on it. And then he has his drone in a sock. They open our luggage and like, you have drone? I'm like, no. And then Jerome's like, no. And our friend was with us. He's like, no. So that's 3 of us lying to government officials. He takes the drone bag. Oh my God. He takes out the remote and he goes, what is this? Jerome's like, it's a game. It's like a, like PlayStation, PC, da 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 da. He literally just closed the bag. The drone was right there. Hilarious. It was right in like the next pocket.
That's crazy.
That was the closest we've gotten. Yeah. I don't know what would have happened, honestly.
Well, that's the beauty of going back to a place multiple times, by the way. Like, because, you typically, I do comedy, like I need to constantly be doing it. Like it's hard to get away from it. But I'll carve out these 10 days. It's perfect. I go and then I go to Karbala. And for any of you guys who don't know, it's like a holy Shia site in Iraq, like one of the holiest. It's in like the top 5 at least, maybe top 3.
Yep. Circle.
Yep.
Yeah.
You found it?
Yeah. CE.
CERCLE.
Like sick raves all over the world.
Epic. Like in like epic locations, and they announce them maybe a few weeks in advance, and they sell out right away. Some of them are private where there's just like 20 people, but yeah, they've done like Petra and the pyramids and the fjords of Norway and like
like here's a perfect example. We're in Karbala. We want to bring our camera in, they won't let us.
Yeah.
We find like the head of the guy And he's like, come with us. And he's like, we'll give you a permit. And our guide was like, bro, he's not going to give us a permit. He's just going to like brag for 20 minutes and like give you guys like saffron tea. Like it'll be fun, but like we're not going to get the permit. Like it takes more time. It's exactly what happened. And then I'm like, fuck, we could have gotten the permit. And like our Karbala segment of like my video is still really strong in my opinion, but like it's not shot with our camera. And like if I just had more time, but that's why like going back, like if I went back, like I've learned so much. I know that I could like execute on a high level. Like, boom,
and
boom,
I don't
boom.
know if you're the same, but I'm the type of person that I always ask. Always, because if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. Like even, you know, I interviewed the Taliban and I was just random. I had no intention of interviewing them. I did not really care. But when we were there in the moment, I asked Mo John, I was like, can you ask him if I could interview him? Like, and he said, yeah, you know, and in all situations, I'm like, can we try to get the permit? Let's just try. Can you just ask? And then I would say like 7 or 8 out of 10 times, the answer
works out.
is yes, it somehow works out.
They don't know about the Karen skill that we have living here in America.
That's very American.
It's very true. And like, they're like, this is how it is and that's it. And like, I even remember, like there have been times in my life where I've seen people be surprised about me like Karening, being like, I will not stand for this. And they're like, okay, sir. You know what I mean? So like, it is a thing, but you're right.
The
like,
rules a little bit.
It's easy. Yeah. It's easy to just listen to what they have to say, but you're right. Like you might as well ask. I will say we had bad luck in Afghanistan. Like they wouldn't even let us inside the Blue Mosque.
Oh.
They didn't even let us go in. They're like, you have a camera, you can't go in. We're like, what? But anyway, like I
couldn't go in the Blue Mosque anyway. Afghanistan though, like we asked to drone, and in Bamyan they let us drone, and other places they said no. But again, like just ask.
As well.
Iraq, my guide in Iraq, him and the guy that he took around, they did FPV in Karbala. All because they FPV, like the drone that flies and does like crazy tricks.
Oh, inside
wow. On the grounds of this is the first time that anyone has ever done that. All because they asked and they were like, we'll give you some footage. You have social media, right? This is gonna be the most epic footage you'll ever get.
Right.
And they agreed to it.
Have that rules.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so what's on your list for the near future besides Afghanistan and Iraq?
Japan.
Have you been
South
to Japan
Korea. Jerome would say no. I was there for 48 hours. So and it wasn't planned with him, so he's very upset. But Japan and Korea, and then we're going to Iraq. We're gonna start planning Syria, somewhere there, Afghanistan. We also don't want to be the people that are just known for, they're the ones that go to Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq. So we try to like balance it out
be that person
a bit. Europe, we're trying to plan some stuff in Europe. Ukraine.
Cool.
I need to take Jerome to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You are Ukrainian.
I'm Ukrainian.
We could do a whole nother episode on this.
We can.
Potentially, before I have like all these questions just popped into my head, but I'm like, we'll save that for Elona part 2.
Gotta get Jerome on here.
Yeah, we'll get Jerome on here. That'll be fun. So I will say this, I have started to get what you were describing a little bit with Europe, where like I go to a European city and it's great, but I'm like, this is starting to all feel the same to me. Like I want to get out of the city. I want to like go, you know what I mean? So we'll see how that all ends up for me. But
I think balance is key. Like we went to Maldives just a few months ago, and that's not the type of vacation that neither one of, like, we don't care for beaches that much. We don't care to lay on the beach or like relax. That's not us. But you know what? We loved it, and we still had like an adventure out of it, and we were doing a lot of like water activities and snorkeling and diving and stuff. So
they made the best out of it.
We made
I was texting her there. She's like,
terrible.
She's like, I'm heading to Maldives. I wish I was going to Afghanistan. I'm like, said no one ever.
It was like a 3 a.m. flight, and then there was a Ariana Air, and they literally announced it, and they're like, flight to Kabul, and it was like a movie scene. They're like, flight to Kabul, now boarding, and Jerome and I at the same time, we turned around and we were like, a sad face, and we're like literally about to hop on a flight to Maldives, and honestly, both of us would have easily, if we had the chance to just go to Afghanistan right that day, that night, we would have.
It's so funny. I remember that moment for myself where I was in Moscow, and I was in like the smaller airport. I forget what it's called, like Domodedovo or something. Mm-hmm. Do you know what it's called? I forget.
Domodov, maybe?
Maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ryan, if you don't mind checking that out. You speak Russian, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the board of where all the flights were and just seeing these names of cities that I've like could only have dreamed of being able to go to, and now I was like a flight away from them. Yeah. How do you say that?
Domodedova. Domodedova, actually. Mikhail
Domodedovo.
Lomonosov. Yeah, Moscow. Domodedovo. Yeah, never been to Moscow. Not on my itinerary.
Yeah, I understand.
I think we just we love pushing our boundaries, and the more we travel, the more we realize how much we just love other humans and how easily we assimilate. And again, that's a skill we have, and that's a skill that we have to use. And if we could change the perception that people have of certain places, we want to be able to do that. Even if it's a small contribution to the world, it's a contribution nevertheless.
100%.
Our Iraq trip, people were texting their family members, FaceTiming them. Look at this. Look at how nice the people are. People it was amazing.
Blown away.
Listen, we had 10 people on our trip. 10 people came back, told another 10 people. That told another 10 people. That's slowly and collectively changing the perception that people have.
Totally. And I feel like I'm screaming into the void when I do it, because people are like, all right, Giulio, Mr. Crazy Pants, man.
And we get that too.
But I know that you're right. It does scale. And I've had people who listen to the show who've gone and done these trips, and they tell me about them, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the guys even is going to do video at my wedding.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah. So very, very cool. And I completely agree with you. It's important to push the limit. And even sometimes I start to feel like it's cliche when I'm just we're all the same. You know what I mean? But there's validity to it. And I think it's a noble.
There is. I think inherently we are very similar, and we just have to be open to to that fact, especially when we travel.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Okay. So final question I have for you. So you and Jerome, you guys are now an item. Previously, you were not. You were traveling a bunch for years, and it never, for whatever, your friends, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear about a little bit about that. What a
which
fun
part?
story. Okay, so how many years were you traveling as friends?
5 years we've been best friends.
Before anything happened. So you had been best friends for 5 years. What about before you were best friends? When you met, whatever.
Well, 5. So we met, and then shortly we met in Paris, and then shortly after he moved to New York, and we were kind of a group of content creators here, very small group and very close. And because we were traveling often, we just inherently became so much closer. So I would say we became very close very quickly, and we were traveling together for 5 years, whether it was leisure or projects or work. And then finally, he was the only person that would go to Afghanistan, and I was the only person that would go to Afghanistan with him. So we did that trip, and then we did Iraq, and we started doing these really life-changing experiences together. But even after that, we were just friends, and we were just planning to continue
friends,
doing that.
Whatever. Okay.
Just friends, strictly platonic friends. Yeah.
So did he feel that way too? I forget. You've told me a little bit about the story before, but who started to feel the feelings first? Who caught the feelings first?
I think it was probably me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it was probably me. He just says that there have been people his friends that were like, dude, the only thing that's missing in your life, and Jerome would say that too, is a girlfriend. That's all he wanted. He just wanted a relationship, because everything else in his life was just going so well. And his friends were like, why not Elona? And he's like, well, Elona does tick off. He's also very picky, by the way. But he's like, Elona does tick off all of my boxes. She has multiple passports. She speaks multiple languages. She's cultured. But then he's like, but this is the biggest risk. I would never, So I think even if there were any feelings on his part, he actively suppressed them to make sure that there's no risk to be taken. And then for me, I never even thought about it for the same reason, just because that is a person that has to be in my life forever,
right?
And we can't risk that. But then something just clicked.
So walk us through that. Where did it happen?
We were in Uzbekistan.
Classic. A romantic weekend in Tashkent.
Yes, it was the most non-romantic weekend, but we were in Uzbekistan with 2 of our close friends.
Where in Uzbekistan?
Well, we were traveling the whole country.
Okay.
And I think at one point, even in our group with close friends, I realized how well I know him, just because him and I travel so much more together than in a group. He would order my coffee. I know exactly what he's going to order for food. I could finish his sentences and vice versa. And it was strangely weird. I was like, holy shit. In a group setting, you notice it a lot more. And then I'm very touchy and feely with most of my friends, and with him especially. And we were on the train going from one city to another, to Bukhara, I think we were going. Okay. And we were just playing with our hands, and all of a sudden we're holding hands for the whole hour of the train. Little things that now in retrospect we notice them. And then the final one was we had a 7-hour road
hands,
trip.
like, sorry.
Kind of like, yeah.
Fingers.
Yeah, like fingers.
Just like whatever. Not even thinking it, like not acknowledging.
Jerome though says he's like, I noticed, but I was like, I know it's Alona. She's always like that. She's always like touchy feely. And then we were driving to Hiva. It was 7 hours. And I got super car sick, like you already know from the Afghanistan thing. Like me in a car for 7 hours.
So crazy. Yeah.
We were going there so he could take this one freaking picture. Like that was the main reason we were going there. So that's love. Yeah. And then I was in the back seat and I was just like trying to sleep, and I was sleeping on his lap. And I woke up at some point and he's just like holding his hands over my eyes so that the sun doesn't get in my eyes. And I was like, fuck. I was like, oh damn, like it's like he really loves me. And like I like really love him too. So I gave him like the green light. I was more touchy. I think that's the only green light that I really gave him.
So you like maybe like you felt the hands and then you laid on his shoulder. Like
I mean, that moment was disgusting and hot, and I was so nauseous, and I was so angry that we were like driving for so long. It was supposed to be like a 5-hour drive. It was 7.5.
Classic.
And then we got to Hiva, and again, like I'm just like more touchy, more I was like, I guess naturally giving off a vibe, hoping that he would catch on. I don't know his boundaries. Like to him, he might be like, yeah, this is great, but I can't because this is a big risk. And then in Hiva, so we were with our friend Will. It's 3 of us. There's 3 beds side by side, like we're in a dorm room. And Will went to sleep. He has his earmuffs and like sleep mask, his sleep mask on. The aircon's not working. It's like fucking hot and disgusting in the middle of the summer. And we have a sunrise shoot. And this is already like midnight, and our beds were kind of like right next to each other, and we're laying side by side and like kind of like holding hands. And I'm like, well, this is it. I'm like, he's not making a move. Oh, shit. It was just taking him so long, and I don't know what else to do because I'm not going to make the first move. And maybe like I'm just like caressing his hand and like going like this, and I'm like, this is it. I mean, if this is not happening now, then tomorrow, like I'm going to be full blown, like that's it, friend zone, because I understand like this is too big of a risk. So then he like gets up and kisses me, like just a little peck.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
And then that's it. That was it.
Nice.
And then like we went to sleep, and then the next day we were like hiding from. The next day I woke up delirious because I had 3 hours of sleep, and I'm like, did he kiss me last night? Because it was just a peck, you know. So I was like, maybe I was dreaming. And then we were like hiding from Will because they had no idea. And
what do you mean?
Every time Will went to the bathroom, Jerome would like sneak in a kiss.
Nice.
And then we had a long flight home. We were flying together, and we were flying like Turkish. We had like a 20-hour layover, and then we came home, and then I moved in the next day.
Stop! Yeah. No way.
Yeah, wow, we never even had a conversation.
No way.
Everyone asked me, they're like, "So when did you talk about it?" I was like, "Talk about what?" I was like, "It literally just natural. It was so." It was the most natural thing that happened in my whole life. It was never a conversation. It was just like well, come on, Alona. Like, you're not just going to go back home to Long Island and then come in once a week so we go on a date. Like, that's stupid.
Totally.
You've already slept here before. So, yeah, I just like kind of like slowly started moving my stuff in. And then we went back to traveling. And then he was planning on moving to Dubai. So that was perfect. We moved to Dubai together.
Wow.
And that's it.
But you only lived there half the year, right?
We only lived, we're going to be there half the year. But like we like came there, started, looking for apartments, and
great.
Yeah, it's literally no conversation. I can't even give advice to people because I recognize this is like not the norm at all.
Correct.
But it just, but I think the 5-year buffer that we had and all the travels that we had, especially like traveling for long periods of time together, really spending like Jerome and I spend every second of every waking moment together. We work together, we live in the same apartment, and like
you get along great.
There's nothing, like there's not even disagreements, let alone everyone's like, how you argue or do you get tired of each other? No.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I look forward to meeting him. Jerome, you sound like a great guy.
Yeah, maybe you'll have his side of the story.
We'll get him
because
on the pod.
I keep saying like, oh, it took him so long. Like that night I was waiting, and he was like dying inside. He's like, the shit that was going through my mind was like, you'll have to just save it.
Amazing. I love it. Well, great episode. Thanks for coming on. This is a lot of fun. Was very excited at the prospect of finally getting you on. I'm happy we were able to pin you down. So where can we find your stuff? Where can everybody follow you and all that?
Oh, on Instagram at Elona, Elona. That's probably where my bread and butter is.
Sweet.
Maybe 2024 my YouTube goals will bloom into fruition, but
sweet.
Follow your footsteps.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Still trying to figure that one out.
Afghanistan will maybe be my first one. So,
Amazing. Good.
yeah.
Enjoy. Very fun. Hopefully we'll do a trip together one of these days. Maybe I'll tack onto that Syria trip.
Syria, yeah.
Sounds fun. Excellent. Follow Elona. She's fascinating. She makes a lot of cool stuff. And I like her a lot, and I think you guys will too. You know where to find me, at Not Julio. I got a bunch of tour dates coming up. I'm going to be in Phoenix, San Diego, Stamford, Connecticut, and then shooting my special in Chicago on February 16th. If there's still some tickets left, you should grab some of those. Lynch, did I leave anything out?
No, shoot us an email at oopsthepodcast@gmail.com.
And get out there and do some traveling, guys. You know,
Yeah,
just
go
get
to
your feet wet.
Afghanistan.
You don't
No,
have
go
to
to
go to
Iraq.
Afghanistan yet,
Yeah.
but you should eventually.
Yeah.
But you should definitely at least go to Iraq.
Yeah. Agreed.
Easy trip, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy.
But anyway, talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.